All right, guys, back at it again, and we finally made it to another point of ranking a discography. If you've been following along, you've been, jamming out to this heavy as hell thrash metal band. We've been talking about Slayer for the past month or so here. 13 albums we're looking at today. They not quite as lengthy as maybe our Iron Maiden ones or Black Sabbath ones, but it's approaching more studio albums than Ozzy Osbourne. So, yeah, I've kind of, if you kind of know the formula of the channel, we do full in-depth reviews on these albums throughout. We'll pick a band, do full in-depth reviews, and then rank them all with, kind of not as track by track entirely, like we would do on the actual album reviews, but this, we'll just cover kind of the basis of these albums and talk about, why they rank where they do, and that's just kind of for, we've somehow gained a lot of new subscribers along the way here, which has been just awesome. The more people talk about metal and music in general is just a great thing. Had some great conversations down there in the comments, and I want to see your guys' rankings down here, and it's all, subjective here. It's going to piss some people off, maybe it's not, maybe you'll agree, but especially with a big discography like 13 albums, kind of hard to land exactly the same list as somebody, but that's where the fun of it lies. Like if my bottom album is your number one, that would surprise me, but you know what, if it is, that's cool. I want to hear about why. So we could talk about that down in the comments, and just kind of and just talk about our different opinions and why things rank the way they are. And I just think that's super fun in the world of music, and really just in all kind and pretty much all the stuff we cover here. But yeah, with all that being said, guys, it is time. We are looking at the Slayer albums, ready to rank them. If you saw the reviews, you know what number 13 is going to be for me. I'm not the biggest fan of cover albums, so number 13 has to be Undisputed Attitude. This was at a time for the band in the 90s where they were kind of trying different things. They got Paul Bostaph in. This was the second album with him. I'm not the biggest fan of cover albums to begin with, but they can be done, and they can be done really well. There's been examples of that before, like Metallica's Garage Days, and stuff like that. They can be done really well. And this isn't done. It's not done just horribly, like to where I'm just like, oh my god, like whenever I covered Ozzy's Undercover album, months ago, or however long ago that was, I couldn't stand some of the tracks on there, that like some of the covers on there. This is more of, I'm not a really big fan of punk. It's just quick little bursts of songs. You get like Verbal Abuse, Leeches, Abolish Government, Superficial Love. I mean, these Can't Stand You is a little bit more of a fun one, but again, like the majority of these songs on here are just small little snippets and pieces. They're short and they're cool. Like they're short and sweet, but like they're too short for me. Like a minute and 20 seconds. It doesn't really give me time to digest it. Maybe, and I guess that's kind of how punk is, right? But Da Damn is a pretty cool one, but again, it's over before you can really get into it. I Hate You was pretty cool, was with, that was kind of cool because it was like some of Jeff Hanneman's, like some of the stuff he wrote with the project he was going to have called Pap Smear. So, that's, so some of that stuff is, you can hear more of that kind of Slayer sound too, but it also is really punky, which again, I'm not the biggest, not really even a fan of punk. Just not my thing. But I get its influence on metal and thrash metal in particular and everything, but it's just not my cup of tea. The cover of Iggy Pop's "I'm Gonna Be Your Dog," except changed to "I'm Gonna Be Your God," is a pretty freaking cool cover. I do like that, and of course, I love the actual original track on here, the sole original track on here, Gemini. I think that's a kick-ass track. Really, really dark and brooding kind of feel to that one. Really gloomy track. So I don't think this is just a terrible album. It's okay. It's one of those things. It's like How often am I going to put it on if I want to listen to Slayer? Probably not very often at all. But it, that track Gemini is going to get some play from me. And again, it's not like I'm listening to it and just hating what I'm hearing. It's just all these tracks are just a minute or so and then it's done. So you don't really get a even long to appreciate what's there or even get into what's there. So that, and I guess again that's kind of how punk goes. But just not my thing. So okay album. They don't have a terrible album. This isn't terrible. They did Slayerize them up. They're heavy. But that's number 13 for me. Speaking of short and sweet, number 12, Haunting the Chapel, the EP here. And you may say it's not fair because it's an EP or whatever, but sometimes there are cases where EPs can jump up high. Like there are certain cases, but in this is a great EP. It's incredible. It is short. You've got Chemical Warfare, Captor of Sin, and the title track Haunting the Chapel. All incredible. You could have tacked those on right on the first album, and maybe even on Hell Awaits, and they would have fit right in. Maybe if they had their production upped a little bit, but just incredible stuff. But it's only 3 tracks, so it's like there's only, if maybe these 3 tracks were some of the best tracks they've ever done out of any album ever that they've done, maybe it would jump up way high. I mean, we saw another incidents where an EP did rank very high was in my Steve Vai ranking, Alien Love Secrets. That's an EP that's not too long and it ranked up high. So I don't really think it's unfair to include EPs, but I mean, I get it if you don't want to include it, but I do love this EP. Like, I think it's awesome, and all 3 of those songs are badass and incredible songs in their own right. But I wouldn't put them up with like some of their best material ever. But it is an awesome EP. So that's it for number 12 there, Haunting the Chapel. Then we go on to number 11, big time controversy here with Diabolus and Musica. And I know this one has, it's ruffled many feathers. What was cool though, we've had in the comments when I reviewed this several weeks ago, some people were talking about really digging this album, or maybe kind of halfway digging it or whatever. I think it's a great album. It's a fun record. It does have a little bit of that nu metal type stuff kind of in there from time to time, but I don't think it's I don't think it's terrible and as bad as people say. I don't even think it's bad at all. I think it's a great album. You get tracks like Bitter Peace, State of Mind, Perversions of Pain is one of my favorites off here. In the Name of God. I mean, even what I've heard and read, seen people talk about, they at least say that track In the Name of God, they can dig that. Scream in the Sky, Screaming from the Sky, that another solid one. Love to Hate. I mean, there's just some awesome stuff on here. Again, maybe some of them bleed together a little bit. I saw where somebody talked about that when I reviewed this, and I agree, and at some points it does, but there are those standout tracks, that, in particularly Perversions of Pain, In the Name of God, Bitter Peace, those ones are, and Love to Hate are like, I'd say those are like the top notch stuff for this album. But yeah, it doesn't, it's ranked number 11 here. It's not ranked up super high or anything, so like, I see people maybe wondering how it could be above Haunting the Chapel, when maybe Haunting the Chapel has some tracks, or most of them all the Haunting the Chapel tracks are better than most of the stuff on here. But the tracks like I just talked about here, I think these can, they warrant it going above, and it's more of a full, piece, and even the stuff that kind of runs together and does kind of apply that more nu metal style to it doesn't ruin it for me. It's just kind of a different take, different style a little bit. But I don't think it diverts too far away from what Slayer's about to make it a full-on nu metal album. I kind of clarified that in my review for it. But just, I've always dug this album. I've really never had a problem with it. So, yeah, there we are. Number 11, Diabolus and Musica. Now, number 10. And these next two got really, really hard of which one I wanted to go where. But number 10, we're going to go with World Painted Blood, which we just reviewed, what I think last week or the week before. And I think this is another great album. The last album that had all the original band members together, Jeff Hanneman, Dave Lombardo, Kerry King, and Tom Araya. All the gang was here on this one that came out with 2009. The title track's just freaking badass. Love that title track. I love Hate Worldwide. Really pissed off sounding track, Public Display of Dismemberment. Human Strain might just be the best one off here. Same with, American and Psychopathy Red. Those are just great stuff, where, and even those tracks, the reason I kind of put it down here lower than some of the stuff that's to follow is I think even those best tracks can't really, even the best tracks off here don't compete with some of even the weaker stuff off of the higher albums. Maybe not so much as the case with the one that's going to be, this is ranked number 10. I think this one and the next one are very, very similar, similarly paced and produced production-wise. And so that's why it was really hard for them. I don't think this one is significantly worse than what I'm going to rank at number 9. And I don't think number 9 is significantly better than this right here is number 10. So it was very hard for me to rank them. But I mean, this is a great album. You can pop this on if you're wanting some Slayer. You can pop this on, and you're going to get that Slayer experience you're looking for. It's just more. It doesn't stand out. It's kind of lost in the middle there. In regards to the way where it kind of panned out in their discography, and as far even like I would even go as far as to say even Diabolus and Musica is more of a standout album as far as like, oh, most people hate this one and know it because they hate it, right? And it also has a notably different sound. This kind of sounds like, just that 2000s era of Slayer, which obviously I love if you've seen the reviews. Love this album, again. But those albums do kind of all follow that same consistent sound, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. But that just kind of makes this one drop a little bit lower for me. But World Painted Blood is a great freaking album. It was the last time we got to hear all the original 4 members together. So yeah, number 10, World Painted Blood. And that puts number 9 at Repentless, which I just covered a couple days ago, or a week ago, whenever the hell that was. But and if you saw my review for that, I love this album. And it was just very hard between this one and World Painted Blood. Again, very similar styles. I know we get Gary Holt on guitar, which is really cool, from Exodus, and we get Paul Bostaph back. This is their last album. And, somebody commented that they don't think it was, they didn't think that this was like they were disappointed in it because they, for a final Slayer, they expected more. And after I read that comment, I do kind of get what they're saying, because you would expect this grand, magnum opus from these guys, like, some albums we'll talk about later, and more in the style of those and the vein of those. But we did get kind of, again, that kind of run-of-the-mill 2000s and up, because this came out 2015, Slayer sound and pace, and nothing too ambitious. Didn't try anything too ambitious. And that's not, that doesn't, it didn't do anything too ambitious to stand out, is what I mean. Because sometimes playing the hand you know how to play is the way to go. But I think the 2000s albums, a lot of them, especially these two, World Painted Blood at number 10 and number 9 here, Repentless, they do kind of, they kind of can bleed together a little bit. But yeah, the tracks here, Delusions of Savior, that bleeds directly into the title track, Repentless, major highlight. I think that was a great way to start off their final album for sure. I love Take Control and Vices, Cast the First Stone. When the Stillness Comes might just be my favorite off here. That one or Piano Wire. In fact, I might just say Piano Wire. And that was the only one that Jeff Hanneman, had a hand in writing since, he'd sadly passed away before this was released and was able to record it, anything. But, Pride and Prejudice is a really pissed off song. And that is the closer. And I think, too, maybe they could have ended their final album with something a bit more grand. I mean, that Pride and Prejudice is a solid track. But when kind of thinking about that comment back on the review of this, I definitely see where they were coming from, and I'm agreeing with it that they could have maybe went all out with a final album and made it just a freaking magnum opus, because I don't think this is quite it, but I do love Repentless. But anyways, yeah, we're looking at number 8 here, and this might surprise some people, but we're looking at South of Heaven, and I love this album. This album in the past has ranked up really high for me. This saw a stylistic change for the band. I mean, it showed, we saw them take more of a groove metal approach at times in some of these songs, like Spill the Blood, which was one of my favorites off here. And I don't have a problem with their groove metal kind of approach. I don't think they were straight up all groove metal. They were still Slayer, and there's some fast, stuff on here. But I do think that and the stylistic change kind of did maybe shy some people away. And I've heard this be some people's favorite Slayer album, and I get where they're coming from. I love this album. Again, Spill the Blood, their cover of Judas Priest's Descendant Aggressor. I love the title track, man, South of Heaven. That's a Slayer classic. Behind the Crooked Cross, Mandatory Suicide, Ghosts of War. I mean, this is all incredible, incredible stuff. This is one of those ones you can pop it on. You're going to get a classic, incredible Slayer experience. Maybe it's just I'm more attached to the ones ahead of this, and I do think maybe some of the lesser tracks on here aren't quite as standout, and this album isn't quite as full of those just major highlights in their discography, like maybe some of the ones going forward are. But again, I just listed a bunch of those freaking great songs, and it's filled with them. But I just think I'm more attached to ones going forward, and some of these later albums, they just do they do it for me more, so. But yeah, South of Heaven, just an incredible album, and a really great one to end out the 80s and kind of show what they were going to be about in the 90s. There we go with that. So number 7, we're going with our first album, Show No Mercy. And this is another one that's ranked really, really high before. And I love the rawness of this one, and just the energy and just the, ferociousness of it. With Evil Has No Boundaries, The Antichrist, which might be my favorite off here. And Die by the Sword's another one of my favorites. Black Magic, Final Command. All this stuff is just freaking fantastic. This album, it's noisy as hell. It's thrashy. It's raw and aggressive. And I just love that feel about it. This was the album that really, got me into Slayer. Because I checked out Rain and Blood, right? And at the time, and this was years ago, at the time I checked out Rain and Blood, and it was more of a, I was just like, since that was like the heaviest thing I'd heard at that time, it kind of shocked me. I was like, what the hell? So I was like, I'm just going to start from the beginning here. And this one, it's really, really heavy, but I don't think it's quite as heavy as Rain and Blood, and I was able to kind of more ease myself into it, and this one really made me like, okay, I love this album, I'm going to keep going forward. But yeah, Show No Mercy is an all-time classic. I've seen this at the top of people's list too, and I totally get it, because it's been at mine before. All right, but now on to the next one here. We've got number 6. Just making sure I'm on track here. Number 6, I'm going with Hell Awaits, and this was one that I used to rank a fair amount lower, not a ton lower, but just over the years I've begun to appreciate the production and the animalistic nature of this one, and the darkness this one brings, with like the title track Hell Awaits, with that dark growl, Hell Awaits, and Kill Again is just fast paced and just nuts. Praise of Death, Necrophiliac. Crypts of Eternity is one of my favorites off here, one of my favorite Slayer songs. Same with Hardening of the Arteries. It's just crazy, crazy heavy, crazy fast stuff. I remember being shocked by this one too after, such a jump from, Show No Mercy and Haunting the Chapel to this, the way these guys evolve very, very fast. And this was the correct way to go, I think, as far as evolving. I mean, and they knew it, and they made this freaking incredible, incredible record that is just, again, it's one of my favorites here. Such an awesome one. I damn near put it higher than this. These were really hard to rank, but which I say it every time, but it's true. But yeah, just Hell Awaits is just a magnificent record, and I used to like the debut quite a bit better than this, but just, again, over the years, this one's just bumped up there for me. So there's that. And now in the top 5. I'm going to get a drink here real quick, though, because, woo, lots of talking. All right. Top 5 here, and this might shock some people, but this wasn't the case years ago, and even before I revisited these for this review series and ranking series. But number 5 is going to have to be Christ's Illusion here, and I can't believe that it jumped up this high for me. This album, I've just grown a new appreciation for the cleanness of the production, yet being so damn heavy. I mean, it's just a dark and evil album, which is what you want with Slayer. The entire time through. Excuse me. Skeleton Christ, Eyes of the Insane, Jihad, Conspiracy, Catatonic, Black Serenade. I mean, I love the Cult. Even the title, Flesh Storm, another great one, the opening track. This album is just loaded with incredible, incredible stuff. I think this is one of those that kind of established that 2000s Slayer formula. I know this wasn't the first one of the 2000s, which we'll get to. This was, this one came out in 2006, but this one kind of established what World Painted Blood and Repentless would kind of stay along the track of, the sound and production style. But I think this one it established it, and I think it did it the best. This album's nuts and just really dark and controversial as far as a lot of the topics, with jihad and stuff like that, which just makes for some really interesting lyrics. Really, really, and that goes for any Slayer album. You're going to get some crazy, dark, and evil lyrics, which is just a part of the experience, But this album is just a massive, massive shock to me that it jumped this high up. But that's the fun thing about this. You go back and revisit these things, and stuff can change. And this was one of them. I used to have this. It never ranked low, but it kind of ranked down maybe towards where the Hell Awaits kind of down to where the World Painted Blood and Repentless were. But it just jumped up here to my top 5. So there's that with Christ's Illusion. Then we're going to go with number 4. And here's the first one of the 2000s that dropped on 9/11/2001. Ironically enough, God Hates Us All. This one's always been just a massive favorite of mine. It is one of the most pissed off sounding albums I've ever heard. Like the embodiment of anger. You get Disciple, New Faith, Threshold, Exile, Bloodline, Deviance, Warzone. I mean, these are just, it's crazy, the noisiness of this album, too. They really brought that back for this album, I feel. And, I mean, it does have a different, it's not like the same type of noisy, like thrashy, garagey kind of feel that maybe the first, the early stuff gets, but it's like a noisy, chaotic kind of feel that God Hates Us All goes for. And I just think it makes for some classic Slayer material, some of the choruses, and just, again, how pissed off it is, man. I mean, if you're ever driving down the road and just pissed off, or pissed off in general, anywhere you're at, I mean, you put this record on, it's going to make you just start bumping your head, headbanging, and just, a great outlet for, releasing that anger. I mean, it's just a very pissed off record, very great record, amazing stuff all over it. And I think this one it's been highly praised among, fans of Slayer, at least from what I've seen. I don't know if I've seen anybody rank it up, at number 4. But to me, I just think this is This is one of their masterpiece albums. They just, they got kind of out of their 90s funk. They were kind of going in near the end, about from like Undisputed Attitude to Diabolus and Musica. And they said, okay, we're back with what we know how to do. And bam, this thing, came to fruition. But now we get into the top three. And this one's definitely going to shock some people, but I'm going to go with Divine Intervention. And this is one that I've seen at the bottom of people's lists before. I've seen in the middle. Never really seen it near the top. It gets kind of lost in the shuffle. But Paul Bostaph, I've said it before, I like him as I prefer his drumming style and prefer him as a drummer than Dave Lombardo. And that's controversial as hell. I know it, but, I just was blown away the first time I heard him on here, with tracks like Killing Fields and SR 13 or whatever the hell, the title track, Divine Intervention, has got that dark kind of clean, this, just like Christ Illusion, this one has that clean but really, really heavy sound to it, and just Paul Bostaph just made himself known immediately. He had to stand out from Lombardo, and just the sound he gets on the drums are just absolutely incredible. Killing Fields is another just massive favorite of mine among their discography. I just think this is another really, really aggressive record, and Paul Bostaph brings that aggression to the table, and it's got such a dark feel to it. Sex, Murder, Art, another really great song off here. I could go on and on. This is just a fantastic record, and I think it's really underrated. I think maybe over time it may age better, because I mean, it definitely, at least to me, has more, where I've seen people rank those like, Repentless and World Pain and Blood higher than it, just because it has more of a classic Slayer feel to it. I think this one stands out more to those in a significant way, clearly, because I mean, hey, it's my third favorite one. Again, I was just blown away first time I ever heard Paul Bostaph drumming. I mean, I was just like, whoa, this dude, But that's it right there. Divine Intervention, number 3 for me. One of the rarest albums in my collection for sure. I was very glad to get a hold of this. Number 2. Yeah, we're down to the top 2 here, so you'll know what number 1 is after I reveal number 2. And this is hard too, man. I tell you. I mean, I have gone back and forth between these two before, but I think number 2 is going to have to be the icon Rain and Blood. I mean, this album, as I've described it before, I mean, it's like a journey through hell, man. Angel of Death, what a classic. Piece by Piece, Altar of Sacrifice, Criminally Insane, Reborn, Postmortem that falls right into the ending, Raining Blood, is just a disturbingly beautiful moment on the album. Just one of the best albums of all time. And this is highly regarded as one of the best metal albums of all time, and I'm of that opinion as well. That's why it's up here at number 2. I mean, it's so damn heavy. I mean, I think that's easily their heaviest album. The speed they get, just the aggressiveness. It sounds like Tom Ray is freaking speaking in tongues some parts on this, even though he's not. And that makes for like a cool effect for the whole album, and the art is just nuts. I think that just the whole vibe this album gives off and its nature is just dark and evil, and the fiery pits of hell. You're diving in them and you're going down each layer as you go through this album. And I think Raining Blood, even though that's like their most iconic song and probably their most known song, I mean, ending it with that and the storm and the rain, I mean, that's just a perfect way to end this masterpiece of a record. And Angel of Death is the perfect way to start it off. I mean, what a freaking album. Again, this one's been at my number 1 before, and I know it's probably going to be at the top of a lot of, if not most people's lists. But to me, it just barely gets beaten out by Seasons in the Abyss at my number 1. This album, I mean, man, this one, if I wasn't already into Slayer, which I was going in order back, when I kind of discovered them years ago. I got to this thing and was like, whoa, okay, this is something, this is something else. It's like the perfect blend of your fast stuff with, war and just brutal stuff with War Ensemble. And, Hollowed Point, Born of Fire, I mean, gets really speedy at some points, and Temptation. Then you get like, these kind of groovy tracks and really just Dead Skin Mask. Man, that's one of my favorite Slayer songs about Ed Gein, really creepy and just the kind of the chants and stuff that you also get on like Skeletons of Society and the groove and the hookiness. I mean, they made Slayer made some songs freaking hooky while still being heavy as all get out and disturbing as all get out. They managed to do it with this album, and these in the title track too, Seasons in the Abyss. I mean, that one, it's got such a different aura to it for me, and I just think it's the perfect blend of those really fast, speedy moments, some really cool time change moments, on here, and just that kind of groove and melodic nature that they can also bring to the table at times. That makes just for a hellish journey, but a different kind of one. Instead of a deep dive and a plunge into hell like Rain and Blood, you're going through here slowly and feeling every freaking burn. Is kind of the way I'm gonna put it. Because the way the pacing is on this thing too, and the production is just top notch stuff. Although I didn't mention, but I think maybe their best album production wise might be Divine Intervention. I think, which people may disagree with that or whatever, and and that's cool too. But I think this one also has just some top notch production, and is just my favorite freaking Slayer album. I mean, you guys saw me talk it up in the album review video for it, so I mean, if you saw that, the love was real with this thing, and that rings true, because this is number one for me, and it's rarely, while it has, kind of bumped down below Rain and Blood before, it rarely has in the past. It's typically stayed at the top. But yeah, guys, that also means, hey, we knocked out that ranking. Now we get to announce the next album review. Again, not discography ranking, because we'll announce that next time. Because now we're going to do just a one and done album group. You've heard of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Well, they're not a one and done, but Emerson, Lake and Powell is, when they got rid of Carl Palmer on drums and put in the freaking legendary beast Cozy freaking Powell on drums. So we're going to take a look at that next time. We're all over the place in this channel. We've covered Mr. Blue Murder, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Slayer. We're all over the place. We'll cover it all. We're jumping from freaking crazy thrash metal to some synth pop prog stuff. So, but hey, that kind of give your ears a rest if you're following along. From the heaviness, and kind of changes things up a little bit. And in that video, stay tuned for that, for the Emerson, Lake and Powell album review. And in that video too, we'll announce the next band we're actually going to be going through discography, which I'm looking forward to. So this will be a pretty fun one I've been wanting to tackle for a while, and will be a really, really challenging one. But we'll, as far as where I'm going to put certain stuff and everything, but we'll get down to brass tacks and do it. But yeah, guys, drop your rankings down there below. This was super fun. It's always, bittersweet closing out these discography rankings. Feels like a new chapter's begun in the channel, but it's like, going in order through these albums and stuff. It's just so much fun. But anyways, yeah, guys, I want to see them rankings down there and see why. If you hated my list, that's cool. Let me know. If you loved it, awesome. If you had somehow the exact same list of mine, which is highly unlikely, then hey, cool. That's the fun of this. We just talk about it down there, and share opinions and thoughts and everything. And even sometimes, just like we can change each other's minds a little bit. Just like again with the Repentless comment, where he said it was kind of a weird. Not really a ultra memorable way to close out Slayer's discography, and I was like, what, kind of had a point. So it's kind of makes you we make each other think down there a little bit too. So, but anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching and tagging along here. Tune in next time. Like, subscribe, comment, and